Hey everyone, this presentation is called Let's Get Ready to Twinmotion as presented at the 2022 CET Experience. All right, so today we will cover several topics. Some we will dive deep into and others we will just touch on. We're going to cover things like what exactly is Twinmotion, what types of objects transfer from CET and what does not, transferring CET drawings to Twinmotion, the actual function of that, as well as some quick fixes after the export to Twinmotion. So CET and Twinmotion get along pretty darn well for the most part. CET does a great job of laying a good foundation for the wow factor that Twinmotion can bring to the table. After a drawing is created and specified in CET, it can be exported to Twinmotion for the creation of fly-through videos, presenter mode, quick 3D renderings, and also some traditional still renderings. Let's take a look at this video on YouTube, and it'll give us a good overview of what exactly Twinmotion is, what it can do, and all of that. All right, so now that we have an idea of what Twinmotion can do, and please keep in mind their click counts way off. Just saying, don't think that you're actually going to create a whole scene in 3 clicks. That's not a thing. But that gives you a good idea of what Twinmotion does, what its function is as far as like adding in those animated characters. There's really cool lighting effects. Just like in CET, you control the sun. A lot of the exterior views are very much enhanced with Twinmotion with those graphics or the plant life and stuff like that that reacts to environmental conditions like wind or the snow or even just rain or something like that. So it's very cool. One of my very favorite portions of Twinmotion is the ability to create this presentation mode. And this is an exportable file that can be used by anybody with a computer, and they don't have to have Twinmotion. And just recently, Twinmotion released a new function that allows you to load it up to the Twinmotion cloud. So you now no longer have to send your client a gigantic file type and have them download it. It also allows you to turn on and off the access to it. So if you had a client who was looking to buy something from you and they ended up going to a competitor or something, you could very easily shut down access to your files, your assets, everything else that you were sharing with them so that they can't as easily take it to a competitor. So let's take a look at this presentation mode and just give you an idea of what exactly this is. So after you've built your 3D images, your whole environment, you can start the presentation mode by just clicking on the media mode and then going to import the media, which is what we're doing here. And you select either images or 360s or even videos that you've previously created, and you drag them into your timeline. And what these do is these kind of serve as a map for your client to click on, and it will take them to key areas of the building, as you're seeing here. So if you had some areas you wanted to emphasize, you could use the images for those particular areas. After you have all of those set, you go to the export button, and you can begin the export, and you can either do this as a presentation for the local drive, or as I said before, you can use that cloud access. The presentation mode will export to a very large file, this about 4 gigabytes, so it's quite sizable. But it runs a small little exe file that will launch the Twinmotion Presenter application and let your client look at it in this interface. So as you can see here, those preset images are still at the bottom, and it will play through those in 5-second increments. But at any time, if your client gets to one and they're like, oh, I want to see what was over here to the left, they can click into that image and begin to move about the entire area, just like you were working in it in Twinmotion. So it's a very powerful tool to be able to hand that off to your client and let them drive, let them figure it out for themselves. It's also just kind of a lot of fun. So that's probably why this is one of my very favorite features of Twinmotion. All right. So now that you've seen what Twinmotion can do, how do we get CET drawings to talk to Twinmotion? There's a couple of ways. We'll touch on both of them, and then you can decide what you prefer or how you prefer to work. There is a Twinmotion for CET extension available on the marketplace. This extension creates like a live link between CET drawing and your Twinmotion drawing. Changes made in your CET drawing will be reflected in your Twinmotion file upon update, which is just a quick little button click. However, if you make changes in Twinmotion, they will not be communicated back to the CET drawing. The other method is to export a CET drawing to a Twinmotion compatible file. It's an FBX file. This export process is really similar to how you would export a CET drawing to a CAD file. So it's probably familiar to most people. This export is a captured moment in time, so any changes made in the CET drawing do not automatically update into Twinmotion. All right, so what actually transfers? The short answer is pretty much everything. However, there are some exceptions and differences between the export methods. For example, PDFs and JPEGs do not transfer regardless of the export method. And active lighting, which would be like Omni lights, area lights, and things like that, they do transfer in the Twinmotion extension, but not in the file export or that FBX export method. We are going to take a look at some of these items in a little bit more depth in that, and we'll talk about if they need attention before export or immediately after transporting them to Twinmotion. So the primary difference between export methods and CET is the native lighting. So it'd be the active lighting objects like Omni lights, area lights, spotlights. These would otherwise not render in CET. However, they do provide light in CET. Once they are transferred via the CET extension, the active lighting objects do not show up. I'm sorry, the active lighting objects do show up in Twin, but they just don't do anything. So Omni lights and area lights show up as translucent objects, but they don't emit light. So they're kind of strange when they come over. And spotlights appear as they do in CET when you're in the working mode. So as you can see here, the spotlights down in the bottom right-hand side, showed up. Don't necessarily want those in my renderings. They were just trying to light up my non-lit lamps in CET. So little bit of work to do here. When you're using the file export method or that FBX, the active lighting objects do not transfer. However, light fixtures like the pendant lights from the lighting extension will visually transfer. They just won't emit light, and most of the time they have kind of a funky material applied to them. So if you plan to use the direct link method for exporting, there is a little bit of prep work that I would suggest you do first. The first thing I would say is to either delete or move all the area lights, omni lights, and other spotlights out of your active drawing area. These objects are much easier to remove and manipulate in CET rather than trying to move every single one of them individually in Twinmotion. I've made a couple of visibility settings to aid with this task, and I'm happy to share those with anybody who would like them. I'll show you how to use those visibility settings in just a moment. If you are exporting an FBX file, there really is no prep that is needed because the Omni and area lights and spotlights just simply don't transfer in any way, shape, or form. All right, let's take a look at what our CET visibility setting looks like and how we can use it to get rid of our active lighting objects. All right, so as you can see here, I've got a floor plan that was fully developed in CET. You can see I've got some area lights or some omni lights rather kind of hanging out all over the place, just helping light things up for the renders that we did in this space. You can see they're pretty much everywhere in this drawing. So I'm going to activate the lighting visibility setting that I created. And what this does is it filters out everything except those lighting objects. So you're able to grab every single one of them and move it straight off to the side. And I use the arrow key to lock in that direction. And then I'll key in like 2000 inches so that I know exactly how far away from my model space it is. So if I do need to move them back, it's a super easy click and key in that 2000 again, and you're good to go. So as you can see, we've moved all the lighting objects out of our plan and we are ready to do the export. Okay. So moving on to CAD backgrounds and CAD plans that you have inserted into your CET drawing. Regardless of the method, CET plans and backgrounds do transfer with both methods. They're a little bit distracting because they cast shadows just like they were an opaque object. These will show up in renderings, videos, and anything else you're doing in Twinmotion. So if you're using a direct link, I would suggest that you either remove or relocate the CAD plan in your CET drawing, just like we did those active lighting objects, or maybe even delete them completely. Totally up to you. It just kind of depends on how you want to work. You can also, once you do have everything exported into Twinmotion, you can use your scene graph to turn off or like close the eye on the little CAD drawing. That works too. It just doesn't always hold when you open the program up again. So use your best judgment on that one. If you are exporting to that universal 3D object type, that file type of FBX, you can actually use the filter function to filter out the 2D CAD plan that you're using as a background. Just be careful not to filter out any 3D furniture CAD symbols that you have imported into your plan. So just be judicious about which ones you're picking there. We will touch on filtering when we take a deeper look at the exporting process of FBX files shortly. All right, so flooring. All flooring objects transfer, whether they are from the flooring extension or the coverings that are part of that extension, architectural extension. The flooring extension exports each type of flooring or pattern as being a separate object. So it can be a little bit tricky if you're making adjustments in Twinmotion. I'd suggest you use that scene graph to select the entire flooring object so it moves all together, and then you're not left trying to perfectly realign all the objects. So you can see in this is picture here that I've clicked on the patterned carpet there, and it's only selecting all the pattern carpet in my little area. It's not picking up that center stripe or the other horizontal stripe pattern carpet that we've got going on there. So I've also noticed, though, that objects transferred from the flooring extension don't transfer with much texture or like the bump, the nubby roughness associated with them. So after the export, be prepared to do some material editing and changing once you do get it into that Twinmotion drawing. I'd say there's no drawing prep needed in CET, but just be prepared to edit those materials once you have the export completed and you're working in that drawing in Twinmotion. All right, so most materials make the transfer from CET to Twinmotion without issue. However, there are some materials that get distorted or flipped around or just generally don't transfer well. Both PBR and the traditional GM files can get distorted. It doesn't appear to be related to either file type, so it's just a universal issue with materials at this point. Um, there really is no prep needed in CET. This is something that has to be handled on the Twinmotion side after the transfer. Okay, so in Twinmotion, I'm sorry, in CET, when you have an invalid or an incorrect furniture layout, your product may turn pink or some other color to indicate, hey, there's an issue. These invalid symbols do transfer to Twinmotion as like a random material. Like in this case, it's pink glass, apparently. So there is some prep work you'll need to do in CET to head off any of these odd visuals. The easy fix is just to make it editable using the Edit Graphics extension, or you can actually fix the furniture error, or usually it's an application thing or something. So just make it correct or do the cheater thing and just make it editable and it will go away. Ceilings is another hot area. Ceilings, both traditional and the fluorescent, like with the light bulbs and light fixtures in them, they both transfer. Both types of ceiling create light leaks along the CET native walls. You can kind of see that there in that back corner or back wall, I guess. It's got that gap, it looks like, even though it is sealed physically. It's just something with the graphics and how they transfer. You can replace the traditional ceiling with a 3D custom shape in CET, and it helps remedy the light leaks, but it does introduce some categorization and visibility setting issues in CET, since now instead of a ceiling, you've got a 3D object that also now needs to be toggled on and off when you're trying to work in it with furniture or something like that. So my suggestion is actually to fix this issue when in Twinmotion using their primitive objects over the top of the CET native ceilings. This way you don't have to alter any of your drawings, your CET drawings, and start editing visibility settings, which is a whole nother topic. And I just assume leave that to the Twinmotion side and we'll fix it there. Blocks help us out quite a lot in CET, and the blocks do transfer with both export methods. The FBX export will reference a block name in the scene graph, which as shown here, and then list each symbol below that. So what it's doing here is it's showing us we have this block Hive 121 something, and then below that, it has every single part and piece that make up that block listed below. So the nice thing here is that you can just click on that heading of the block Hive 121, and it will grab everything within that block and you can move it around in Twinmotion. The export method using the Twinmotion for CET does not export block information. It exports all the objects. They're just not blocked together. So you're not able to select that block into Twinmotion and move it as a group. Everything seems to transfer visually. It's all there, but you just can't move it as a cluster or a group or something like that. On occasion, blocks can cause some problems in the transfer method. and the symbols get like all jumbled up and flipped upside down and around, and they're just generally wrong. It's been a lot better lately, so I think there's been some improvements made there. But if it does happen to you, in CET, explode all of your blocks and repeat the export process, and that usually fixes the problem. All right, so now before we get too excited and just go all crazy transferring CET drawings without doing any sort of other prep work, there's a couple of things we need to do before doing any sort of transferring. The first thing we need to do is to find your 0 point in the center of the CET drawing. We do this because if you don't have your drawing somewhat centered in the CET file, when it exports, it can be like way, way off in the distance. And it's kind of frustrating to move things a long distance in Twinmotion. At least it is for me. It can be done. I'm not saying it's not possible. It's just, I find it to be annoying to have to do that. So to find the center point, there's got to be an easier method out there, but I will share with you guys how I find 0 so that I can center my drawings in CET before any sort of transferring or export methods. All right, so I'm going to skip over this right now. It is available in the PDF, and we will go straight to my video here that shows us, hopefully, the simplest way that I found to do this. All right, so as you can see, I've got a drawing here. I've been working in it for a long time, developing this whole thing. And it appears that it's in the center of my drawing. So what I do is I open a fresh drawing with absolutely nothing in it, and then I grab a wall and place it directly in the middle of that beautiful gray carpet. And then I right-click and copy, and then jump back into my drawing plan, right-click and paste, and then I look for that guideline. See how it's way over here? So basically what it's doing now is referencing that same point in the fresh new drawing and showing me where that is in my current drawing. So you can see it's way, way off bottom right-hand side. So what I'll need to do now is move my drawing, my objects, to that bottom right-hand side, and then upon export, it should be in the correct location and hopefully not floating way off in the distance. All right. So after you have centered your drawing or decide to skip that step and roll the dice, it's time to export, or in this case, open the connection between CET and Twinmotion. You will need to have CET open to your drawing, as well as having a blank Twinmotion open before you hit the export button in the extension. So in the Twinmotion extension, you'll need to click Start, and then in Twinmotion, click on the Import button down in the bottom left-hand side. I think it's called the Burger menu, and select the Direct Link at the top of the next window. This will likely be the default because CET has already sent out a little message to Twin that says, hey, I've got some information for you. The file paths also should be updated. They should be correct because, again, CET sent out this little note already. So it just wraps it up all nice and tidy for you. So make the export process pretty darn easy. We will take a look at the actual demonstration of this in just a little bit. The file export method for FBX is the one I mentioned before that's pretty similar to exporting a CAD drawing. So most people are pretty familiar with it. You start by selecting File and then go to that Import Export and click on Export Drawing. And then select the location of the file that you'd like it to save. And in the next window, check all the boxes that are on the left-hand side. And then Filter is the option. You do not have to click Filter here, but Filter will let you filter out things like that 2D CAD background that can be distracting or any other non-desirable items. So if you were to click on Filter, The next window that pops up should look pretty darn familiar. It's got basically the same filter interface that you would see with visibility settings, like in Paperspace or anything like that. So you can go through and toggle on and off all those little eyeball things and make sure that you're not exporting a 2D CAD plan or anything else you just don't want to transfer into your Twinmotion drawing. After the file is export, you'll need to manually import it into Twin. Again, you just click on that import button in the bottom left burger menu and select geometry this time instead of the direct link in that next window. And then browse to your exported FBX file and click import. If you do encounter a material conflict window, I always suggest you just keep both. That seems to work better than one or the other options. Basically, what it's asking you is, do you want to keep the material that it thinks you've got in CET, or should we find the best match in Twinmotion? So I definitely say keep both, and you probably have a better chance that it's correct. After the import, you may not immediately see your model in the twin scene. For whatever reason, it seems to put it like directly below you, and as you're like spinning around, looking all around, you can't find it. So I'd say use the scene graph to really quickly zoom to your drawing, and that will help alleviate some of those things. So there's a number of special features available in Twinmotion that benefit from some prep work in CET. One of my very favorite CET features is the automated doors. They open automatically when you get near them, and it just adds a nice touch to fly-throughs. If you're approaching a door, the door just opens for you, and it's great. It feels more real. So if you're going to use the animated doors, I would say to replace the doors in your CET model that you plan to have animation with just an opening from the CET wall extension that's the same size as the door, height, width, all that. It makes the process of putting doors in the Twinmotion model way easier. That might actually be a one-click solution. So we'll take a look at that here shortly too. I also really like some of the accessories in Twinmotion. Some of them are animated and some are just simply different. So it's nice to have another library to pull from to get a little bit more variety in your life if you're tired of the same old in CET, pop it into Twin, there's a whole other library for you. I also like to add accessories in my Twinmotion drawing only because it keeps your CET drawing a little bit cleaner for use for install plans and even just communicating with your clients when you're trying to hash out the details of the workstations or anything like that. So the other fun thing is you can also insert animated humans in Twin and add some realism and fun and demonstrate how the spaces would be used. One of the other fun features is that you can import an MP4 file and play it on the TVs and monitors that are in the space. So as you're walking by a conference room, you could see a video playing on the TV there or something like that. So it's just, again, another little touch that seems to make the space feel a little bit more real. All right, so let's talk about some of those quick fixes in Twinmotion. There's several of them that are just need a little bit of attention and they don't really take that long, but it's something to fix. So like things like materials, most of the time they come in rotated and maybe adjusted on the axis, the X and Y axis, so they're just messed up a little bit. So we'll have to take a look at how you fix those quickly, and we will do that here just shortly. You can also add illumination to light fixtures. So that would mean that it's not necessarily lighting the space, but you could make the lights look like they're glowing. So it's just another realism kind of layer that we can add to it. And we can also change the light leaks, things like that. We talked about adding the primitive object in Twinmotion to fix the light leaks. And we'll take a look at that as well very shortly here. And we'll also talk about replacing some CET native finishes with some Twinmotion ones because sometimes they're just a bit more realistic. They take light a little bit better, show the right shine or the matte finish on them in that. So With that said, let's go ahead and pop into our live demo. All right, so we are going to start with the export process. So I think for this one, we will do the Twinmotion for CET extension here. So I have this little fun little break room, I don't know, lounge, something like that we're going to put in here. And as you can see, I have built my door. This is the primary entry door, and I've just used the opening tool. So we'll be able to put a door in that pretty quickly. If you do put doors in here, when you get them into Twinmotion, you have to delete out every part of the door. So it could be like the frame, the handle, the lock, the glass, the hinge, all sorts of stuff has to be deleted. So it's just easier to just put in your opening like we have here. I do have a ceiling on this one. It's currently frozen. Let's unfreeze it and take a look at that on the inside. So you can see we've got just kind of a drop ceiling looking thing here. And we've got some hanging lights that are chilling out, making this space pretty cool looking. So that is what we have there. So what I will do is I do have Twinmotion open in the background. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And this sends that nice little note out to Twinmotion that says, hey, got something coming your way. And so now if I open up Twin, and we're down here in the bottom left area, and we're going to click import, and direct link is what we want. So we got direct link. Looks like this is the right one, and I'll just hit import. And this only takes a couple of seconds. As you'll see, this isn't sped up or anything. But just like I mentioned, it says it's done, but I don't know where the heck my drawing is. I think I've spun around all the way. Looks like it's right below us here, but if you still can't find it, use your scene graph over here and click on the name of your file and then hit the F key on your keyboard, and that will focus right to that. So now we've got our funky little space right in here. One of the things that you'll notice is, for whatever reason, everything imports a foot or two off the ground. So I would say to, over in your scene graph, grab a hold of that export file, and that grabs everything in your whole drawing, and then use the little yellow ball to snap it down to that ground. Okay, first thing I want to do, because I don't believe my office is on a sea of cobblestone, let's go ahead and add a material to that. So I'm gonna go into my materials in the library here and come down to ground. We'll go to nature, and I'm just gonna drop in some grass. So it's starting to look a little bit more normal, not quite so, I don't know, cobblestoney, I guess. Okay, so now that we have that done, let's go inside and take a look at how everything imported. Well, first and foremost, it seems like my ceiling imported, but the lights are black. That doesn't make any sense. The fastest way to fix this is to grab your little material picker, little eyedropper guy, click on that light that's black for whatever reason, and go over to settings. And then we are going to add some glow. And just one or two is plenty to get that glowing effect that looks like, you know, the lights are on. How's that? Yeah. We can also grab the material on these little pendant lights that look like they should be glowing as well. Can do the same thing here and add some glowing abilities there. The other fun thing that you can do is in materials down towards the bottom, there's a neon material. So you can go pretty nuts and add like this multicolor neon thing and apply it to the lights, and they start flashing through all the colors of the rainbow there. You will note that because I have right down here, I have, pardon, the apply to material, I think that's what it's called, replace material. It will replace that occurrence of the material in the entire drawing. If you have just one object that you want to apply it to, so let's say you only wanted these lights over here to be flashing. You could undo this real quick. You could apply it only to these lights here. There we go. So you can see now these did not start flashing, but these are. So because of that apply to object button, we were able to separate those two. Goodness, I keep clicking there. All right, so let's talk about some other fixes here. Okay, so here's this light leak. Let's go outside and let's fix this baby. Okay, so even though in CET we built this thing perfectly, there's no light leaks according to CET. There sure as heck is a light leak in Twinmotion. So let's go to the objects and go to primitives. And I'm going to just grab this 10-meter box because it's gigantic and it doesn't need as much adjustment. And just drop it right on top of your floor plan or your ceiling rather. And let's change the size of that because that's ridiculous. There we go. And we're going to shrink the top of it down. Can make it look more like a cap instead of a whole nother building on top of it. All right, and now this part does not need to be perfect. You just need to make sure that you oversail all of the corners by a little bit. I don't think it's worth spending time to make it perfect. Although if you have OCD tendencies, by all means, take your time, have fun with it, stretch it out, make it work perfectly. That's your prerogative, you know? All right, let me scooch this over. I have a little bit of OCD myself. Okay, so let's go back inside our building and see how we did with that light leak. Hopefully it has remedied itself. Yay! No more light leak. Looks a lot more real. Interesting. Now that we're in here, I'm noticing our lights aren't glowing anymore. Let's go ahead and add more glow to them. There we go. Much better. I'd hate myself if I didn't fix that. Okay, so materials. See, these lovely materials did not quite transport right. So in our CET drawing, let's freeze this guy. You can see that we have this one that has a clover, and then this one has like two people kind of side by side. But in Twinmotion, we have clover abstracted, and these people have feet on top of their head. So obviously something did not quite translate right. So let's grab our little material picker, select that image, and now we're going to go into the More section of Scale. And here we can adjust rotation, axis, and speed, which I do not understand speed. So let's just focus on these two for now. If I wanted to adjust things with the toggles or the sliders, you definitely can. You can also just key in the numbers that you want, which is sometimes easier because things kind of get jumpy. I'm going to open up our axis, and to me this looks like it's scaled appropriately, so I'm not going to stretch it. I think we just need to move it around on the X and Y axis. There we go. I'm liking that. Oops. There we go. Okay, perfect. Much, much better. So we've got that fixed. We could do the same with this one. I won't take the time to do that today, but it works exactly the same way. I mean, you just adjust things around a little bit. Let's take a look at some of these other materials and see what we can fix here. So this is supposed to be a leather, and it does look like it's got a little shine to it, but the texture just doesn't look right. So let's just fully replace this. Let's go into materials and scroll down, and there's actually a leather section. The nice thing is all of these are PBR files. So even if just the texture looks right, grab it, drop it on there, and then we can edit the color. So we could grab more of that buckskin kind of color there, hit OK, and you can also adjust how shiny and reflective it is here. The scale in this case would be that grain. You know, we don't want to go too crazy. There we go. And you'll notice too that because I have the apply to object selected, it only grabbed that one occurrence of it. So let's go ahead and do material replace, and we're going to grab this and fill in, perfect. Fill in the rest of those objects. So I've got a better looking material there. Ooh, hello, detail view. That's looking good. We can do the same thing with the wood table up here. This just looks kind of flat. So let's go find a wood. Pardon me, there it is. And I know some of these are more like a veneer. Let's do that one. And let's make it super shiny. There we go. Check that out. We can see our flashing lights in it now. That's cool. High shine. All right, cool. Okay, so we fixed some of our materials, we've enhanced some of them, and we've added some party to our space. So let's talk about some doors. Let's zoom out. So here's this prepped doorway, which is made with the opening. Let's add a door to it. These are just generally super cool. I don't know why I geek out over these doors, but I do. There's two options as far as function. There's rotating doors, which is a standard hinge, or there's a sliding door, which is a sliding door, you know. Let's grab a rotating door, and I think this one looks good. It's a double. So I click on it, walk it into my space, and it goes purple, and then you just click. So that really is a one-click insert like the video showed. Um, unlike a lot of the other things. All right, so now that we have our door in here, let's go ahead and move inside. Open the door, please. Thank you. Okay, so we have ceiling, no light leaks, better materials. We've got a door that's opening for us. Let's take a look at some of those accessories that we can add in here too. So accessories are found in the home area. And if you go to living room, you can see there is decorations and plants. There's also some pretty decent like little visuals for lamps, kind of traditional furniture, or not traditional, just standard furniture. It's nothing crazy. Although I say there's nothing crazy, and truthfully, there's some pretty wackadoo kind of stuff in here. So, I'm not really sure what this thing is, but I kind of want one. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in here. For now, we're going to stick with some of the decorations, and I think I will put something on this wall over here. Let's just grab this whole collection. That looks fantastic. And then we can add something over here. Actually, let's put a TV on the wall. Grab this one and come out here, please. Thank y'all. And we'll just pop this on the wall and right click. Okay. Whoa, hello, I'm outside. There we go. So we've got this little TV here. Now, as I mentioned, you can actually add videos to the TV. So let's do that. I'm going to grab my eyedropper and pull the TV screen, and it's just this shiny black stuff. So let's replace that. There's actually a video material. Is that right? I mean, it's kind of strange to call a video a material, but here we are. You can grab the video. There's a stock image in here and click and drag it. And now we watch all this beautiful foliage being grown. Of course, you can click on here and you could go and browse to your own materials there and drop them in. Completely up to you. It's just a nice touch to have some kind of motion going on there, or some kind of, additional realism, I suppose, going on. All righty. Now, the other really fun thing that I like to do is always to add characters. So there's a whole section of characters in this little library, and oops, sorry about that. They are under characters. And I like the animated humans because they add a lot of pizzazz to your space. And sometimes, as you'll see, a little bit of humor. Let's grab a mirror and we'll put him somewhere over here. Put you down. There you go. So we've dropped a mirror in, and as you can see, his previous image had a black vest on, and now he's got this burgundy one. So you can actually change his color settings. There's like 4 or 5 presets in all of these. So if they don't match your decor, you can adjust them. Along with the other settings here, we've got his pose. So we could have him sitting. Could put him down on this sofa. Let's go ahead and adjust him just a little bit. Sorry, my computer's getting a little bit jumpy. It's a little bit underpowered for using Twinmotion. All right, and I'm going to slide this guy back so it looks like he's actually leaning on the back of the sofa. There we go. And now that we have him in the sitting position, we can actually pick a further option of what is he sitting and doing. So he was reading a magazine, now he's talking on the phone, and now he could be reading a book. And there's just sitting and contemplating life, of course, because you got to have that every once in a while. Most characters in here also have a special. Looks like his is in a wheelchair, or let's see here. Oh, playing the piano, which they automatically bring in a piano if you need that. Job 1. Oh, cameraman. Like it. All right. Hello, sir. And I mean, you can have fun with this. I don't know. Scooter? Oh, golly. Okay. Interesting. You can have a lot of fun with these characters and what they're actually doing. We won't go into it, but you can add character paths. So this guy could technically be riding his scooters in circles around the entire room. Feeding pigeons, that's a good one. I mean, it's common, right? Okay. I'll stop messing around here. Let's just put you back down, contemplate life, carry on about your business. I'm going to add one more character and we'll put her right here. And let's see here. What are her positions? Let's see. Okay, she has dancing. This is kind of fun. So she does several dance moves. There's a few of them that are a little questionable. And I sometimes, if you're just really bored or whatever, you can put them up on tables and have a real party as we're doing here. So lots of options for that. You can be, more professional about it and maybe just put them in the chairs or working at a desk. But I mean, we can have fun now, so why not? All right, so now let's take a look at the outside of the building. So this is another feature that Twinmotion does a little bit better than CET. So let's go ahead and start building up our outside. So right now we've got like the city view in the background and some green grass. We can add in a full landscape. That actually sucks down my computer energy a bit too much today and it keeps crashing it. So we're going to not do landscapes today, but I will show you how to use trees, bushes, plants, flowers. There's rocks you can add in here. It's kind of cool because if you grab these trees and you can select like 5 or 6 at a time here. I'm going to grab one, hit the control key, and just grab a bunch more. Oh, let's get some evergreens in there. Okay, so I got a whole bunch of trees. So now what's going to happen is every time I click, it's going to randomly select one of those trees that I grabbed. So let's do that. And I feel like we need some on the other side since there's windows over here. And let's do that. Put some way out here so it looks real. Okay, looks like somebody went a little nuts with the landscaping duty there. Okay, so let's go back down. I'm going to zoom in closer to the windows because now I'd like to put in some little bushes and flowers. So there's just some kind of standard bushes. Put those along the window maybe. And let's see here. There we go. Okay, now let's say outside this area, we've got some pretty little flowers. So let's find some, is it in bushes? Where's those purple flowers? Where did you go? Maybe it was in here. Yep, I just wasn't scrolling enough. Okay, so there's just this fun little flowers that you can put all over the place and then watch them wave in the wind as you see. All right, so I'm gonna put a bunch of them out here. Okay, Cool. So let's go inside and take a look at what that might look like in our little dance party happening here. Lovely. Okay, so now it's starting to look a little bit more like a real exterior outside. Please note, you can see I placed my bush outside a little bit close here, and they do come through the walls. So pay attention to that. Might have to do some landscaping inside to make it continue to look a little bit more real. So you got some little flowers happening in here, so those need to go back outside. But as we see the flowers, they are reacting to the environmental factors like the wind. So they're kind of twitching and flipping in the wind just a tiny bit. So let's adjust some of that. Let's see here. We will want to go to the weather and let's just look out this window and see what we can do here. So we're looking at the weather and it's wanting us to tell it if it's sunny or cloudy or raining or something so we can make it rain like it's doing right now. It could make it kind of like partially overcast or like still raining but sunny. Let's go with sunny right now. And then over here you can change the season. So as we scooch it farther down, it becomes fall. And you can see, there we go. Now we're into winter and now all the leaves are gone and snow is piling up. And if we were to adjust the weather so that it's super cloudy and everything, it amps up all of the snowflakes and flurries that are happening. Here we go. Let's go back sunny and then we can go into spring. There we go. That's like what, early April, where it's still maybe a little bit of stuff on the ground. All right. And you can also affect the growth of all of the foliage out there. So, oh my, looks like eventually this place gets taken over by poppies. That's cool. Let's just back that off a little bit. There we go. Okay. And then in the effects, you can also change the wind speed and direction. So you could make it like unbelievably windy for some reason, if that's a thing. You can change the direction. You can add smog. I don't know. I don't know why you'd want that, but you can. And the particles is like the snow and rain, so you could turn those things on and off. Really haven't worked with the ocean very much. I think that if you were to add water in this, that it might affect some of the visuals of the ocean in that case. I'm going to turn it back to like summer because I like warm weather. There we go. All right, so that is the basics of what Twinmotion can do. There's endless possibilities out there. Twinmotion interfaces with all sorts of different file types like SketchUp, and I think they interface with Datasmith, and I mean, just all sorts of stuff out there. So I think the possibilities are endless, and it's also a good way just to bring different drawings together. Like if you got a SketchUp one and a Revit drawing and a CET drawing, you can combine them all in Twin and get them all to talk and work together without too much effort, actually. So it's got a great possibility for that and just bringing all of our trades together. If you've got a demountable wall or architectural wall system or something of that that's coming into the project, you can easily combine those in Twinmotion. So lots of possibilities with Twinmotion. Oh, there's more trees coming through. Just a lot to explore. You can make videos, walkthroughs. There's also a VR component. I have not explored that yet, but I think it would be super fun to be able to hand goggles over to your client and let them walk through the space and look around and all of that at the same time. So yes, and endless possibilities, and hopefully I will be able to explore those and maybe speak to this again in the future. But as always, feel free to reach out if you need anything and get in touch with me either via email or through my LinkedIn. I'd be more than happy to answer questions for everybody. Yeah, feel free. Thanks so much for watching this, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.